Guys, hello and welcome to Skycurser Daily number 80. My name is Brad, and we are going to pick up with level 2 today. Specifically, over the last couple days, we have been doing some user testing, and specifically just trying to see how the scripting actually plays out for level 2. We've done a lot of scripting for level 2 and are at the point now where we can do the final stage transitions and a few more final story points for level 2. But over the last couple days specifically, I've been working on making sure, besides some of the testing notes that we've made to update and some of the minor things here and there, I took on projectiles in a way that I haven't taken them on yet. And what I mean by that is specifically we are now tracking every single projectile as it connects with every single instance of an object in a room. Previously the engine wasn't so sophisticated. It was just tracking every single object that it connected with in the room. But the way we're doing it now, we're going to be able to determine how many times a particular projectile or weapon has connected with an enemy object, or I should say an instance of an enemy object. So in that way we could do special things like we're doing with the heli projectile, which is the heli wolf projectile is basically a heat-seeking projectile, and Skycurser can slash it. Basically he slashes it away, I think 1, 2, like 3 times before it actually fully goes away. But we wanted to be able to have the projectile connect with the heli wolf, or I should say the wolf helicopter, twice before killing it. So the problem that we had was that the heli wolf projectile would connect with any enemy object every single step in the room once it determined that it made a connection. So we had to figure out how to make sure that this particular heli projectile is connecting with this particular heli wolf, and how many times has it connected with the heli wolf, and when should we allow it to connect with the heli wolf once again. So we got into that, and I basically came up with two new scripts, and I will run those by you now. The scripts that I already have in place basically determine whether or not a weapon should connect. This one's called script weapon should connect, and it has to do with our weapon engine basically. At one point we do a check here. Is the heli wolf projectile connecting with the heli wolf? And if it currently is connecting with it, should it actually should the heli wolf literally take damage from the heli projectile? And same with the big rig. If the heli wolf projectile is connecting with the big rig, should it literally take damage this step in the room, or should it not take damage? And so I came up with this script right here. Script should connect projectile, and that is right here. We'll look at that. And this basically just takes a look at what we're passing in. Is the weapon that we're passing in the heli wolf projectile? And we're looking at the string format here. Script object type, we have a particular object, and then we have a string of the object to make sure that it is what we expect it to be. Same with the instance of an object and the name of the object. And then we check to see if a particular DS map exists. Now let me walk over to the base enemy init script so that you can see where I created these DS maps. And here it is. Let's just pull this up. Try this one more time. Pull it over. So we created these projectile DS maps. And the one that we're mainly dealing with the heli wolf projectile is this heli wolf projectile DS map and this heli wolf helper DS map. And we're checking to see if the DS map exists and that this particular key exists. Well, this key is the ID of the instance that is connecting with it. So the weapon that is connecting with it does the ID exist on this particular enemy? So argument 1 is my enemy, the instance of the object with which the weapon is colliding. So in our case, we passed it in from here. The heli wolf projectile, is it connecting with argument 1, which is the heli wolf, which is what I was just talking about right there. Argument 1. And I guess I should mention, because of this script object base enemy init, every single enemy object inherits from the base enemy object. So that means every single object starts out, every single enemy object starts out with these DS maps. And so I can check that DS map to see if the particular key exists on that DS map. If it doesn't exist, then I add it and I set it to 1. That would count as the first hit. And then I also add a helper. The helper is whether or not this particular pass of the heli wolf projectile should connect with this particular argument 1 or enemy object that we're looking at. So I set it to 0 by default right here as soon as I get into here, because we've already determined that it is connecting, and we're going to let it go ahead and connect this time around, but the next time around we won't let it connect unless when I say the next time around, we're talking about steps here. Again, our room is set to 60 steps per second, so the next time around is literally the next step in the second. And so we don't want it to actually be able to connect again until we set this to true or set it to 1, so that we can come back through here and connect. Now, this is literally if the item doesn't exist, we create it. If it does exist, that's what this other else if is here for. We check the value of it. Is the value equal to 1? If the value is equal to 1, then we can go ahead and increment that number. So we just get the value of what we set up here, which was 1 to begin with, and then we increment it by 1. Hit counter plus 1. We replace the projectile DS map for this particular enemy object with the ID of the object that is connecting with it. So in this case, that would be the heli wolf projectile, and we're incrementing it by 1 on this enemy wolf DS map that we've set here. In addition, once again, we're just going ahead and setting this to 0 so that you cannot connect again until we release you to connect again. And on the other hand, if this thing is set to 0, it just hits right here. It says should connect equals false. We pass that back to our script here, and we say, if the script should not connect with the projectile, then we just say should connect equals false, and we do the same thing here with the other object. Now, where we release this to connect it again, where we say it can go ahead and connect again with the heli wolf projectile, I kind of self-determined that should happen, particularly when Skycurser deflects the projectile with the katana. So we basically say, okay, once he deflects the projectile either the first time or the second or third time, we are then saying, oh, okay, now you can take another hit at the heli wolf itself and decrement hit points off of the heli wolf at that time. So I created one more script. Here's kind of our weapon collision script, and we're first of all looking here, is our argument 0, or the weapon that we're looking at, is it the katana? And then we see if argument 1 is the base projectile, and the base projectile is the parent of all of my projectile weapons. So here are my enemy weapons. These are all projectiles. They all inherit from the base enemy projectile. And so we're looking to see, okay, is the script object type object-based projectile? This object type either looks for the object index of argument 1 or the object index of the parent of argument 1. So in that case, we know that yes, we did find that this is a projectile, and then we're also looking to see if an enemy is on screen. We don't really want to do any of these checks if no enemy is on screen, because we're basically checking each one of these enemies and seeing if it has any of those DS maps that we created with the base enemy object. So this one's the important one, the Heli Wolf projectile. Everything else is just kind of set to reset automatically whenever the katana connects with it, and there's no real additional play that we need to occur with any of these other projectiles. However, we did want something special to happen with this guy, and that is that we reset the ability for it to reconnect. So let's go look at that script, reset projectile, real quick. Here it is right here. And I'll just drag this over here. So basically we're passing in the enemy object and the instance of the object with which the weapon is colliding. So the enemy object that we're going to check is what argument 0 is. So we check to see if it exists on screen. If it does, then we find all of the instances that exist on screen. And then we go through each instance and we say instance find, and I want you to find the object Heli Wolf at position I as we're looping through here. So there could be object Heli Wolf at 0, 1, 2, 3, however many Heli Wolves are on screen. On this particular set of the loop, we say, okay, this is our heli, and then again we do this check to see if the DS map exists. If should connect exists, then we set it to 1. If it doesn't exist, then we go ahead and add it and set it to 1. I set up here if it does exist, we just do a replace. That's just GMS's way of saying, oh, the value already exists and you want to change it, then just do a DS map replace. So in that way, we're setting this back to 1, which is saying, okay, I'm going to allow you to connect. Remember how we were just over here in the should connect projectile, or I should say should connect. Yeah, so let's go to the should connect projectile real quick. Open that up. And we're saying if it's set to 1 here, then we allow it to do the connection and decrement the enemy hit points however they need to. Otherwise, we say should connect equals false. And so in that way, that's how we're controlling it. Took a lot of thinking through. I had to do a lot of thinking on how exactly I wanted to do that. But we did the same thing not only with the Heli Wolf and the Heli Wolf projectile, but we did the same thing with the Heli Wolf projectile and the Big Rig trailer. We don't want the Heli Wolf projectile to connect with the enemy object every single step in the room, because otherwise we just have unintended consequences. The Big Rig trailer dies too early, the Heli Wolf itself dies too early, so it just makes sense to control how often a particular projectile can connect with an enemy object. So I'm glad I got to talk through it now, because I had to put a lot of thinking into this, and I wouldn't have been much fun on stream as I was working through that. But now I can think about it clearly and I can talk through it no problem. So what's on the agenda for tonight? I think I'm going to update this in OBS so that it shows up at the bottom of the screen. I am going to work on level 2 backgrounds, so give me just a second. Level 2 bridge background. So I may even, if I get a chance, I may even work to get to the level 2 shipyard, bridge shipyard, or I should say level 2 shipyard background. Which is where you're going to face the boss at. And so, but for now, we're in a good spot. The enemy generator object helps us automatically determine if all enemies are dead up to this point. So here is that. So here's their enemy generator controller for level 2. And we have some basic things that happen at the very onset. It's just kind of like Skycursers flying by everybody who's leaving the city and flying by military and emergency vehicles. And then once we get to right here, this is our story point builder script. And we are basically calling all these enemies at different points in time, which is what these represent, in seconds of when a particular enemy comes on screen. And then here at the very end, we're doing the script end level. But we're going to modify this. It's going to move away from the script end level to and move on to Instead of script in level, it will be the bridge transition, and eventually it'll be the shipyard transition. And then we'll have the script in level at the very end of everything after all this occurs. So I think what we'll do here is set some level variables at the onset. I think we are ready to roll on this, so I'm going to go ahead and just knock out as much as I can here on this. So what I'm looking at in particular is I need to go to the room controls and set a level variable for level 2. And right now I have the game starting at level 2, and I'm fine to keep it that way so that I can keep doing some testing straight from level 2. And we will set this to, let me see, room controller object. This is good. So argument 0 here, arg0 dot, let's say bridge generated equals false. I think we'll add one more piece to this. I might actually change this to a script. Let's go ahead and do that right now. So create a script, level 2 transition. Okay, and I just want to keep this if in here because this if statement could really just get really long and out of control. So I just want to keep it here and keep it simple as I possibly can. And then just pass some arguments in here. Argument 0 equals room controller object. I'll make sure that gets passed in. And then we would say arg0 dot, let's go look at that room controller object here. I'm going to have to connect some dots. Room level 2. Script controller room level 2 self. Let me see this guy. Does this guy have any mention? I could probably just literally create a reference to this because this should always exist alongside controller room level 2. First of all, let me go to the init script for level 2. I'm just trying to be careful what I pass in here so that when I get here I have the reference properly that I need. Controller, rooms, level 2, init script. Intro vehicles complete, initial enemy. So I think this would be a good spot actually to set the variable instead of the script set level vars that I had open. I don't think there's necessarily a need to create it here. I think it'd be even better if I created it right here where I have all these other variables set. So bridge generated equals false. And probably do one more item that we pass in here, which is the exact transition that we want to occur. The one that we want to check or trigger. Just going to shorten my variables here, my variable names. Cool, got arg1 here. Can do a case, let's just say call this bridge, break, cut and paste this guy. And opening and closing. Cool. So the last thing I need to do is pass this in so that this can be referenced properly. And I don't know if I have that in the enemy generator object. First things first, let's go ahead and see where this guy gets called. In level. Yeah. I think Okay, so this is just my checker to see if the level is set to complete. Or to set it to complete, I guess I should say. Script level complete, level 2. I think the object enemy generator is actually not called from a script. It's actually dropped in to the room. Let's verify that. Room level 2. And there's my enemy generator level 2. So, I think what we'll do here is just give this guy a reference. And let's just do a little bit of trickery in here. Room controller set equals false. Just copy that property name in the step event. Now, I'm not exactly sure which one's going to get created first, so I'm first going to do a check here and say if not room controller set, then we say if instance exists, room I gotta name it correctly, object controller room level 2. Boom. So if it exists, we can go ahead and set room controller to true. And we can give this guy a reference to the room controller. So we would say room level 2 ref equals object controller room level 2. So now this guy, let me just call it controller room 2 reference. So now I have this guy available down here when I want to make sure that it gets passed off properly. Script level 2 transition, so that's what we're going to do. First things first, we will hold on 1 second, guys. Yeah.
Charles Vader.
Okay, so I am looking to make sure a build is set up correctly. So let me take a brief timeout for a second so we can get some user testing in. I didn't really change anything, so I'm not really sure what the problem is here. So everything looks right to me, so give me a second. Okay, so I'm just going to monitor that for a minute. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to get a build up for Chris, who's doing some user testing right now. And so that may just take me away just for a minute to make sure he's got his controls correct. So I'll just keep an eye on my phone for that. But other than that here, I think we're good. Now we have this reference here. And before I actually run that, I obviously want to say if this, then we can do a check here. So if the room controller is set, then we can try to transition to level 2. And it should be. There's no reason in the world it shouldn't be set. And if it is set, then we know this is available, and then we can call that properly, so we should get no errors at all. Last thing I want to do here, and I actually think I might need to I've basically included this in the script, so we're going to remove a couple of these items here. If that's set, and then if this, let's see here. Okay, so Chris is getting back to me. Okay, he says he thinks it might be an issue on his end, so I'll just keep working here unless I see something else. And so at this point it's checking to see if all these things are true. Now the problem is we got to be careful because this whole script gets evaluated, this whole action gets evaluated every single step, and if we don't have a timer associated with this, then we're going to end up causing this to run on the very first step or one of the very first few steps inside the room. So I think I'm going to do one more thing, which I'm trying to think of exactly what that needs to be real quick. Story point builder, let's go there. Enemies. I think it's under controllers, enemies, multi-level, story point builder. What I really need to know is what this evaluates to in terms of time. Argument 0 would be the timer. Argument 1 would be the enemy controller object. So I think we're just going to modify and create one more script here, and the script will allow me to pass in a time and pass in self, and we should be able to determine how much time has passed in the room, and we can replace this with whatever I come up with. So I am working on that. Give me just a moment here, because I can see I'm going to need it in multiple places. I think I'll just put it right here with the enemies. Script, timer, argument 0 equals enemy controller object. Nope, let's do this the other way. Argument 0 equals activated at in seconds. Just kind of the concept of when should this particular story point be activated at, and then argument 1 will be the enemy controller object. This will be good for level 1 and 2. And so now we can do something like this. Pass this in and say var timer equals let's see. So I think I can just return this value right here, and that would be the timer. So we just pass in right here, we would just go script timer argument 0 argument 1. Nice to see you streaming again, by the way. Your camera appears to be out of focus. Sorry about that. Sometimes this guy does get out of focus and I'm not always sure what to do about it. Thank you for that. I think we're back in focus here. Cool. All right. So I've got script timer here, and really that's the main thing that I needed to check. If room controller set and script timer, pass in my time that I want to check, 5.5, and pass in, I think I'll just actually make this 140 because my last one comes in at 135. Let's make that a little bit lower than that. Awesome, thank you for that. Still focused, it looks like. Goes in and out a little bit, I can see. 137, and pass in self, and close that off, and script timer. So I think we say global.room step counter greater than or equal to this guy. And that will do it. That'll be the check for us to know whether or not we can activate this. So similar to the way we have this set up, this is the check. Then we can go ahead and do script level 2 transition. And we're good. I do need to modify this, so this says var arg0 equals argument 0, var arg1 equals argument 1. So all these will only be checked after this is true, and at that point bridge generated equals true, and I think we can say, let me think about this for a second. Var return val equals false, and we'll just say return val equals arg0 dot bridge generated. Yeah, sorry about that with the camera, kind of annoying. I don't have really a lot of options that I can change on my computer for that camera, so it kind of either works or it doesn't. Bridge generated equals true, return value equals whatever this value is, and return the return val. So at this point I can see script level 2 transition. If we're set, then we proceed inside of here. So probably what I'll do in here is just call another script, and it will be the thing that ushers in a new transition, or there's actually a couple things really that can happen here now that I can run something inside of here. I'm going back and forth in my head about where I should be putting these variables or these properties, and I think I have a good one. Yo to Beasley, what's up, bro? Alright. Rooms, room level 2. We got the self. Rooms, room level 2, step. Arg0 dot bridge transition complete equals false. So at this point I can do one more check after I run a script, and then I can see if the bridge transition is complete for this particular part of the level. Okay, and now it's been going good, man. I've been really busy. You know, got a wife and two kids now. So just had the new baby, and baby is just over 2 weeks old, and so it's been good. Been trying to make sure I get my sleep. When the baby sleeps, I sleep. So give me just 1 second. Okay. So what we can do here is either check this value right here, arg0 bridge generated, to see whether or not that's true, which would be a reference from this guy, controller room 2 reference dot bridge generated equals true after I run this, or just you know, return the return val as true and have it set to false by default, and then write whatever else I need to inside of here. So whenever this is complete, I will say, you know, bridge transition complete, and then that's when I'll end the level. So I'll do something like this. If controller room 2 reference dot bridge transition complete, then we can end the level. And I'm okay with leaving it here because none of this other stuff is going to occur. The main thing I wanted to make sure that level didn't complete before all these other enemies came on screen. So I think we're good in that regard. So now that we've checked the transition and we've gotten a true on the return value, we can say script level 2 and actually I've got a background controller, so I might not even run anything in here. I might just run script level 2 transition and then just keep looking at this to see if the transition is complete or not before I try ending it. And if the transition is complete, I may, you know, do a couple of other things like, you know, a couple more story points in here before I try running the script end level. So either way, we're going to be in good shape here. So so let's go look for our background controller for level 2. Background, move this guy out of the way, level 2. See what's in our create event. Probably a call to a script. Yep, it's a call to a script and a call to a script here. Okay, background level 2 step is probably the important part of where we need to go. Background level 2, background regen. So this just occurs every single time, every single step. And inside of here, we just do several checks to see exactly where parts of the room are, and then we set the speed and direction. Concrete barrier. Now the concrete barrier's got to disappear. Whew. And argument 0 here is actually not anything to do with the concrete barrier. In fact, it's... Oh, I take that back. I was thinking it would be something like this, but let's modify this a little bit so this is a little bit easier to read. Script, background, level 2, background, regen. That's fine, just leave it like that. Argument 0 equals the background object. Argument 1 equals I'll just call it specific background object, and argument 1 equals the so I'm passing a reference. Reference to specific background object, and this is a object background. Yeah. So we're going to change these a little bit. Var arg0 equals argument 0. Var arg1 equals argument 1. So I'm going to just drop these updates in. Hopefully just be a little bit easier to read. That's really my goal. Arg1 replaces all argument 1s throughout the script. Cool. So this is what does the regeneration of all the backgrounds. Now I've got backgrounds 0 through 6. The problem is we're going to be transitioning out of here and transitioning to a separate set of backgrounds. So this may be not as important. Let's go look at these objects, background objects. So these are all my different backgrounds for level 2. Argument 1 is equal to background 2 would be the light post. Alright, now the next thing I need to do is look and see what backgrounds are available to me. Because I don't think I have them all imported, unless they're in sprites up to this point. Sprites level 2, I don't see them all here, so I have to go download those. So that's what I'm going to do. Sprites, backgrounds, Freeway Frenzy, here we go. Let's just look at these for a minute. These are all my different backgrounds that I have. And then here's the bridge transition, the starting point, the other side of the starting point, the background that should basically loop, the end of the cityscape, I think the end of another piece of the cityscape. Okay. And then here's the actual bridge section itself. So here's one side of the bridge, and here's the other side of the bridge. Cool. Okay, so these are what I need to pull over. And let's look at this guy. The dock water. So I think this is a little bit different altogether than the bridge transition. So I don't think there's actually anything here that I need for the bridge transition. Cool, so I'm just getting an update in case you guys were following me from the beginning of this stream. Chris resolved whatever the issue was for his user testing, so I won't have to step away from that for now. In the meantime, we'll download these items. And I don't need those. I need the bridge transition. Download these guys. And then go up and get the bridge section, which is only 2. Then we're going to unpack these. And I'm unpacking the other one. Cool, so I've got those and I'll start importing them. Now, how to do this transition. I think I've got it. And we're dealing with the background for level 2, so we may need to do some things to pass the reference to the room controller, similar to what we did in the enemy generator. So I need to be in the room level 2 controller, or the background level controller. Here we are. I don't think I have a reference. I do want to check one more thing as well. Is this something that is created by default in room level 2? Yeah, it is. So we'll do the same thing in this controller that we did in the other controller, which is I will start by opening the enemy generator to create in the script. Those are sprites. Level 2 init. So I don't have anything here, but it's all in the step event. I'm looking at room level 2 when I should be looking at the enemy controller. Let's look at the yeah, that's what I had. I had a room controller set. Man, I see game makers dropping these in the wrong places again, so gotta be careful when you're clicking back and forth between scripts and game maker, because game maker likes to pull them out of one object and drop them in another. So that's why I was a little bit confused as to where everything was at. Game maker just likes to drag things in ghost-like fashion sometimes. Alright. Next. Oh, look at that. It did it again. It dragged it from over here to here. That's so dumb. Okay. Gotta make sure I get these. Stop doing that, game maker. You kidding me? Script background level 2, so I gotta be in the background. Init script. And we're right here. And as you saw a minute ago, like to shorten these variables. Makes things a little bit easier to read. And I can leave myself notes. I'm going to call this the exact correct thing. Object controller background level 2. Boom. Okay, now we have everything. And more room controller set equals false, and then pass arg0 back. We're not actually doing anything with it, but I just have a return on the script. Okay, same thing for the step event. I'm positive. Here's the step event, background level 2 step. So we're looking for that. So I'd say self right here, and it seems to be working properly, but I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to make sure it's passed as arg0, and it should be, which is right there. So I'm just going to rewrite what I got here, keep it consistent with literally everything else that I have. Okay, so that'll be good. Now, what I could do with this is check to see if room controller is set. If not, arg0 dot room controller set, because remember I set that in the init. We'll verify that real quick since we stepped away from it for a second. And we called it room controller set. And I'll say if it's not set, and if instance exists, and what we're talking about is the object controller room level 2. Then we want to go ahead and say yes, it is set. Controller set equals true, and we want to say arg0 dot, let's name this basically the exact same as what we just named it in the enemy generator object, so that it's consistent. Boom. Now we have this reference for the background level 2, and we can do something like now we can check for bridge generated. First, we'll go ahead and make sure that controller is set. Don't even generate any backgrounds if the controller is not set. And if arg0 dot controller room level 2 dot bridge generated So not bridge generated, because it will not be generated at first. Else it is generated, and do everything else. So interestingly enough, we will be running, you know, this very close to what this is, but we'll start with different backgrounds. And the backgrounds will be based on what we pull in from the sprites for level 2. So let's go ahead and begin generating these additional sprites. Sprite, let's look at what we got here. I'll pull these up on screen so you guys can see them with me as well. So these are what I have. And front bridge, street bridge, front buildings, mid buildings, far city. So that basically lines up with 0 and 1. Look at this one. Front buildings, mid buildings. I feel like I might be missing a building here, or I forget how this is supposed to be set up. But we'll start here. Background. B0. I think I'll do background B0. Desktop. No. Remove the background. That definitely did not remove the background. So we won't click remove background here. Sometimes that happens with GameMaker. It doesn't know which color to remove. So we'll do it manually this way. Erase a color. Yes, that guy. Okay. Okay, so we got the front one. Okay, next we will import another one. Sprite, background B1. Open, edit, erase. Good to go. Okay, so we're doing good here. Create sprite. Sprite, background B2. Here it is. Edit, erase the color, boom. Thumbs up. Width is 1525 there. It's good to know. Not 100% sure about the positioning. I think that should be fine. Sprite, background B3 is what we're on. Thumbs up. And hit OK. Sprite background B4. Okay, I think that's it. 0 through 4. Yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be good. And we'll start a C level of backgrounds. Sprite background C0. Come on, Game Maker, open the page up for me. Good grief. Open, edit, transform. Okay, last but not least, background C1. Okay. So the bridge has been generated, and now we could say if not arc0 dot bridge transition complete, then we run this next piece, and then we eventually mark it to complete. And I think what I could do here then is change what I have here. Script level 2 transition controller room 2 reference bridge, and everything else basically is set in motion with that. Because it gets bridge generated gets set to true. Once bridge generated is set to true, we can then, you know, start adding pieces to the bridge. And once the bridge transition is complete here, then we run the bridge, and I'll just put some ridiculously high number right here for now, 65. So that theoretically we could see this whole bridge transition occur. Oh, man. So I think the main thing that we have to figure out is what lines up with what in terms of this transition. Now I know this says front, mid, far, but I gotta make sure that that is all correct. So I've created the sprites. The next thing to do would be to create the objects that line up with these so that we can control properties related to these sprite backgrounds. And I'll probably do that here. Yeah. all these inherit from the base background. I think I'll just do the same thing here. Object background B0. B1, B2, object background B3, wrong. As I suspected, I grabbed the wrong background on this one. Okay, one more. Cool, got those in, and then I've got these last two to do. Okay, now last thing I wanted to do before I continue real quick, I had all these new backgrounds inherit from this guy, and I just want to make sure that I'm still making the right decision with that. I haven't touched this background for a very long time. Cool. Very good. I'm okay with that. B0, B0 matches 0, B1 matches 1, B2 matches, I'm not sure. Doing what? B2 matches maybe. Background 3, let me see. So I think background 3 here matches background 4 here. Yes. Okay. Come on, Game Maker. Catch up to me. Man, are you serious? What just happened? Did it just close all my files or what? Game Maker is having trouble. Here it is. The 3 matches 4. I think this one's supposed to match 2. B4 matches. This is B4. Far City should match 5. Yep. Okay, so that's helpful because I think close these guys that I'm not using anymore. I wanted to look at the sprite widths of these backgrounds real quick. $697, $697. This one's $15.25, very long. $317. So I think that 2 actually is supposed to match 3. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to match. So $697 and $317. I'm just making some notes here as to what I have. Front. This is front bridge, back bridge, and road. This is the mid buildings, far buildings transition. I need to read this script a little bit more to make sure that I can just use it right here. If not, no big deal. I'll write that as it should be, but if I can reuse that script, I'd like to. Where is this being called from? I wonder if this was called in the init script. Come on. Yeah, it was the generator. And it was passing in the desired X and Y position, the specific object to generate, and the speed at which it should be moving. So I think literally I could just say script background level 2 generator, make sure I pass in the X and Y coordinates correctly, and everything else should basically fall into place here. And let me look at how I'm passing speed into each one of these. So the tricky thing here is I'm probably going to have to pass these in at the same speed, the front bridge and the back bridge. Okay. I can maintain the city, the sky right here. In fact, I don't necessarily know that I have a reason not to include it anywhere, so I'm just going to take it all the way out of everything and just include it at the bottom so that it is always generated. So I think I just go right here. arg0 dot background b 0 equals script background level 2 generator. The X and Y position would be arg0 dot x plus sprite get width. I said dot x, but I meant to say background 0 dot x. Sprite get width of sprite background 0. Does that work for me? If that's what I titled it up here, it should work. Yeah. The Y position will be 0 because they're all set at 240 height, which is perfect. And then the what's next? I've got it sitting right here. Object to generate would be object background B1, B0. And then the speed would be the same speed as whatever background 0. Yeah, let's do that. Cool. And let's say arg0 dot background 0 dot speed And it should definitely exist because we're literally just now coming across it. Or trying to generate this new background. And we're only going to do it once. We'll guarantee that that only occurs once. So this is the X position of... Yeah, the X position of background 1, background B1, and speed will be, let's go ahead and keep it at the same as background 0.speed. Curious to see how that will all fit together. I'm not sure that it will. Unless we start out this speed the same for background 0 and background 1. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's make this guy go 7.5, this guy goes 7.5. Cool. And I think I might have to change the lamppost as well to go the same speed. Hey dude, I'm on. Cool. Sweet. I think we're in good shape here, man. We're moving forward. Okay, so B2. HP changes make a huge difference. Agreed. Yeah, I know. I played through after the HP changes, and it's huge. So this is the same as background 3. And this will be the same as background 3. This is B2. Background 3. Cool. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that sounds good, man. No worries on the thoughts. Yeah, we can address as we come up with them here. Alright, so B3 matches 4. So this would be 4. This would be 4. This would be 3, and this would be 4. Almost done. 4 matches 5, matches 5, matches 4, matches 5. Okay, and I think at that point we just mark arc0.bridge transition complete equals true, and we're in the next set of items, which will just be 2 pieces, and it will basically be the front. It'll be C0 matches B0, front bridge, C1 matches B1, back bridge and road, back bridge. Alright. Background 5. Oh. Oh, it didn't say anything. Something to do. You have to accept whispers, I think, if you're not already, and I'm not sure. I forget how that works. This might be a settings issue. I might need to make the mod bot say that. What's going on there, Ankbot? So the whisper doesn't seem to be doing what it should be doing. Always. But I did get this out of it. Let me see if I can copy this. Alright, so we're almost done here, almost done. And I do know that we're going to need 3, 4, and 5, the whole section, basically. So we're going to drop those out of the if and else statement. And we're going to need them the whole time, basically. So, no, I take that back. Take it back. Those guys are not going to be going the whole time. Alright, I'm just going to copy 1 and 2 and modify them here in just a minute. Or I should say 0 and 1. So this would be B0. B1, change this to C, C. This guy's B. This guy's B. C. C. B. B. Alright. Last but not least, we have to make sure that they get regenerated as they're supposed to on a regular basis. We just say C0 and 1 here, C0 and 1 here, and C0 and 1 there. And then we have to make sure that this only occurs the very first time. First time transition into long bridge. If arg0 dot long bridge transition complete, I'm going to say if it's not complete, else do these guys. and I don't have this variable yet. I have to make sure it exists on the object, so I'm going to set it right now on the room object, which I know is in a script. So I'm going to update that. And we'll just copy that whole thing and set it to true as soon as it's generated, so that it only occurs once ever. And then this guy just occurs over and over again. I guess I do want the trees and bushes. That would be the only thing really that occurs over and over. Chris, are you still there? Okay, so I was just getting ready to text you. Question. Oh, trees don't need to repeat. Tight. Okay, then my next question is the water. When does that repeat? When does that start? Starts with bridge. Okay. Cool. Let's download that, get that set up. Show in folder. Close that guy out. Let's go ahead and add the water in up here. The other question I have related to, and is layered right behind the second row of buildings. Okay, that's helpful. So it'll basically end up in here. Okay, so that's helpful. So mid-buildings transition should be the layer that is right above the water layer. Right. But I'm thinking should the water layer copy the mid buildings layer, or should it copy the far buildings layer in terms of speed and depth in general? None of the transition layers as far as the buildings repeat. Yeah, I got it. I know that. they're not set up to repeat right now. The way I have it programmed, they're not going to repeat. They'll only show on screen once. Okay, mid buildings. Got it. So we're going to just call this D0. D0. Load sprite. Open. Edit. Basic color. Thumbs up. Okay. So we'll put that guy in right here. D0 matches 4 mid buildings. 0. 4 is good. Just the only thing we need to change is this right here, D0. And once this begins repeating, let me see here. Fast as the far buildings. Okay, that's fine. Five. Cool. Easy. Okay, so I think once we generate it, no problem. We just drop it into this section and leave it outside the if-else statement, and then change this to basically be D0. Change this to D0. Change this to D0. So now we just have to create objects for all these. And I take that back. I've already created objects for everything except for this guy. So let's add that last object here. D0. Parent. Cool, cool. What do we got here? Alright. Save. Background level 2 step. Just open that back up. Now we see, since I created the object, it's highlighted in red instead of just the white color that it previously was. So that should do it right there, theoretically. And I'm sure we'll have some bugs that we got to work out, so let's just go ahead and get started working out these bugs. See if we got everything in place. Remember, I've got 30 seconds between when these are actually supposed to fire. We'll just call this Long Bridge. Yeah. Cool. Let's see if this works.
Mission 2, Freeway Frenzy. Go.
sick. Heyo. Bridge transition. Where did we fall apart? Alright. Copy. Abort. I think it's just a reference problem. We're looking at line 23, background level 2 step. So it looks to me like the bridge actually got generated. Which is fine. It's totally fine. So the only problem is argument 0. Here's the problem. We didn't pull in the reference correctly, so that we looked at argument 0, which is the object controller background level 2 has a reference to bridge transition complete. And I got to do the same thing for these pieces too, these items too. That should do it right there. Oh man, that was so close. Almost got to see it. Let's try again.
Mission 2, Freeway Frenzy,
Small bridge transition. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. That looks really good. Okay, so we just messed up on the depth engine here. This is looking good. Okay, easy. Oh man, did you see that, Chris? Looks so good. Wow. Just gotta fix the depths. In showbiz. Man, that was tight. Look at that, man. It's like almost first try. Alright, let's change these depths here in the background controller object. Controller, backgrounds, level 2. Step event is here. Go to the script that's controlling these guys. Generator. I'm surprised the generator doesn't have a depth. I think that's not a problem though. I think the way I was handling it was that I was just passing everything in, and I'm basically just passing the object into the depth engine, and now I just got to specify what the depths are. So we're looking for the backgrounds, which are right here. Now we just got to make sure that the correct backgrounds that match up here are set here as well. So background 0 is also background B0, object background B0, right? And some of these backgrounds may be a little different based on what we need them to be, but we'll see here in just a moment. Background. So do I have background 0 in here anywhere? There it is. So I got to take this guy up, put him right there, background B0. And this guy is case object background B1. 1 matches 1, 2 matches 3. Oop. So case object background B2 matches 3, 4 matches 5, oops. 2 matches 3, 4 matches 5. I had a 3 which should match 4, so 3, and then 5. D0 also matches 5. Background B4. Cool. Water can animate very slowly. That's fine. Yeah, we'll get the animation speed. I guess I can just turn it down right now. And then 0 and 1, C0 and C1. C and C1. C1. Oh, cool. So I'll go ahead and change the speed of the water. Level 2, D0. Add event, create, make sure we inherit from the parent. Event inherited, image speed equals let's say 0.3. Okay, play. This should look pretty good, boys. Probably should have pushed this out a little bit further. Let me just push the finish time out a little further so we can enjoy the background.
Mission 2, Freeway Frenzy, go! Super
Oh, just the way this